Imagine living your whole life thinking your parents love you equally, only to discover you were nothing more than their backup plan. I'm Liam, the good son. I was always the one who followed the rules, got the grades, stayed out of trouble, and never asked for much. My older brother Ethan? He was the golden child. Everything he touched was celebrated even when it was a disaster. I remember when Ethan crashed his first car, yes, his first car, because he was drag racing late at night. My parents were furious, but do you know what they did the very next week? They bought him a newer, more expensive car because, as my dad put it, he needs a second chance. When I asked for a used bike for my birthday that same year, they told me, we can't afford unnecessary expenses right now. Then there was the time I made the honor roll in high school. I was so proud, I worked so hard. I came home, certificate in hand, hoping they'd notice. But Ethan was sitting in the living room, talking about how he got hired for an unpaid internship at some flashy company. My mom looked at me, barely glanced at the certificate, and said, "That's nice, Liam," before turning back to Ethan and gushing about his bright future. The worst was when I got accepted into college. I had worked tirelessly to get a scholarship, but I still needed help with books and living expenses. I mustered the courage to ask them for support. My dad looked me in the eye and said, "We just spent a lot helping Ethan start his business. Can't you take out a loan?" A loan? They had just handed Ethan thousands of dollars for his latest failed venture, and all I got was a shrug. But last Christmas? That's when everything fell apart. Ethan came home, his face pale, his hands trembling. He had gambled away every penny he had, and worse, he owed money to some dangerous people. He begged our parents for help, crying about how he'd made a mistake. And, of course, they bailed him out. They drained their savings, no questions asked. I thought that was it. I thought I could move on. But a week later, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. My mom said, "If anything happens, at least we still have Liam." Still have me? For what? I stormed into the room and demanded answers. My dad sighed and said, "You weren't supposed to hear that." Then they explained. I wasn't just their son, I was their safety net. The stable one. The responsible one. The one they depended on to pick up the pieces when Ethan messed up again. Hearing those words broke something inside me. Every time they praised me, every time they called me the good son, it wasn't love. It was strategy. They needed me to clean up Ethan's messes, to be the backup plan when everything else fell apart. But do you know what stung the most? Ethan didn't care. When I confronted him, he laughed. He said, "Come on, Liam. You know you're the responsible one. Why does this surprise you?" Like it was my job to carry the family while he got to live recklessly. That night, I packed my bags and left. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to figure out who I was without being the fixer, the backup plan, the afterthought. It's been 6 months since that night. I still love my parents, and I even love Ethan in my own way. But I've learned to love